Hello, good evening. We are calling to order the December 17th meeting for Sonoma City Council. Please rise as you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We have a nice warm night tonight. People aren't coming in hats and gloves and, it's a little bit of a break. Hopefully we'll get some rain. All right, so I'm going to ask our city clerk, Ms. Barr, to take the roll call.
Vice Mayor Wellander,
Here.
Councilmember Dean,
Here.
Councilmember Lowe,
Here.
Councilmember Gurney,
Here.
Mayor Farrar-Rivas.
Here.
Thank you.
And there was no closed session tonight, so I don't have a report on the closed session. And now I'd like to know if anybody on the council has any a motion to approve the agenda or changes they'd like to make to the agenda.
I move approval of the agenda.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now, comments from the public. This is the time that we will have, can have members of the public make comments in regards to items that are not on tonight's agenda, and everybody will have 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes each, and then we will take 10 comments at this point, and then if people want to make more comments after those 10, we will take them at the end of the meeting. So please approach the dais. Thank you.
Good evening. Stephanie Fine, 171 Siesta Way in Sonoma, and I'm president of the Sonoma Sister Cities Association, here for the record to read to you a letter that has come from our sister city in Ukraine from Mayor Igor Renkas. And dear friends, in less than 3 months, we will mark 4 years since the beginning of the horrific war between Russia and Ukraine. Throughout these years, you have stood steadfastly by our side. You have demonstrated this through numerous charitable initiatives, fundraising, and donations, as well as your unwavering interest in the historic events currently unfolding in Ukraine. Your engagement is a true testimony to your friendship and love. It is also a powerful declaration against those who cultivate totalitarianism, harbor imperial ambitions, and seek to destroy human dignity, freedom, and life itself. The substantial financial aid we have received from you via the Sonoma City and Sonoma Sister Cities Association is invaluable to us. It has enabled our community in Kaniv to address many urgent humanitarian needs. Yet, feeling your support during these trying times is equally important to us. It grants us the strength and the inspiration to stand firm in this difficult struggle for freedom, democracy, and independence. On behalf of our entire community, I express my deepest and most sincere gratitude and wish that all the residents of the wonderful city of Sonoma peace, well-being, and prosperity. Sincerely, Igor Renkas, Mayor of Kaniv. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I got to say, it breaks my heart when I hear the word Ukraine. It just breaks my heart. I can't imagine what life is like for those people. However, I'm Tom Graves. I live across the street from the Sebastiani Winery, and I'm one of the group of Sonoma residents concerned about the future of the winery and the future of the city. I want to comment specifically on the proposal to combine the parcels of the Sebastiani property into a single mixed-use designation. We've heard more than once that any development on the scale of the winery site will be several years in the making, and that concerns me because the current council members may not be seated in the 2, 3, or 4 years when a development is proposed and voted on. And that means that the new people in your roles will not have heard the last year of concerns from our neighbors and those living outside the city limits who might need to flee the next wildfire through our streets narrowed and crowded by whatever is to come at Sebastiani. The first step you can take with the future of Sonoma in mind is to not approve combining the Sebastiani parcels into a single broad land use designation. I just spoke with a friend of mine who served in your role in another community that was undergoing a general plan update and the prospect of a big development. And he said by combining the parcels now, you will have relinquished a very significant bargaining tool that you might need to use in the future. Any future development, no matter what form it takes, is going to entail some give and take between the city and the people with different varied interests. While I understand it's good urban planning practice to have a single zoning per property, this council should not squander one of its few negotiating tools now and restrict the ability of your successors to undertake the important work they will face in a few years. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Evening, council and staff. Holiday greetings to all of you. Hope you have the best of holidays. Steve McCrosty, 4th Street East in Sonoma. I'm looking forward to the community meeting on January 14th to hear answers to our questions about the pending new land use definition for the Sebastiani property. But I must say there is still deep disappointment in the community. Disappointment that after 12 months of expressed concern, it appears we have not been heard completely. To be clear, our overriding concern is the language that pertains precisely to what would be allowed in the new Sonoma mixed commercial use. And as it stands, nothing meaningful has changed over the last year. Broad description of a variety of agricultural, commercial, and housing uses is still what is contained in the recently posted draft on the land use element of the general plan section of the city website, and is nearly identical to that presented at the January 30th meeting held at Vintage House this year. There has been no meaningful adjustment to the new land use designation called Sonoma Mixed Commercial Use, which will, of course, be applied to the Sebastiani parcels, at least presumably, despite the fact that no one from the public has expressed support for it. At least not very many have expressed support for it. For an entire year, residents have shown up. We've written letters. 900 of us have signed petitions. We've spoken at meetings like this one. Why does a year of resident concern result in no change? Is this draft language in the land use element really already set in stone? It appears that public engagement has had no effect. We are not opposed to thoughtful planning. We understand the need for housing, but we are opposed to a process that asks for community input and then proceeds as if that input never existed. I do hope the meeting on January 14th will result in a transparent response to our concerns. The email about the meeting states that community participation is an important part of shaping policies, land use for future development in Sonoma. I do hope that is truly the outcome of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else that would like to make public comment in regards to items that are not on this agenda? All right, seeing none, we will be moving on. And at this point, I would like to ask the council if we have any meeting dedications. Yes, Councilwoman Lowe.
If this is in order, Madam Mayor, I know there were several tragedies over the weekend, and although none of these people were necessarily from Sonoma, I think it affected all of us when we see people celebrating the holiday of Hanukkah in Australia gunned down, the students at Brown University, and the tragedy to Rob and Michelle Reiner, who have, in my tenure when I worked for the teachers, did a lot to help throughout the state to put in a first 5 preschool for kids. So if it's in order, I would like to dedicate the meeting to their memories and hope that we never have a weekend like that ever again. Thank you.
Thank you. appreciate that. Do we have any other dedications?
Well, I don't want to cloud the importance of your dedication because mine is a little bit more celebratory. Once again, the Sonoma Valley High School football team had an incredibly successful season. I'm happy to say that although they lost their first non-league game to a charter powerhouse out of Sacramento, I think it also woke them up a little bit, but they went undefeated during league. They took the league championship this year again. They went into playoffs, and there's this little town called St. Helena that had a strong second half and ended up foreshortening their season. The good news is they've had tremendous success the last 2 years. I think it's good news is that they now have been moved up one league category. So they will be playing new teams, and it'll be very interesting to see if they'll be able to carry on the success of that we've enjoyed for these last 2 years. So hence, that's my kind of, I'll call it an announcement, not a dedication.
It's a good one.
Thank you. Remember last year they were all here.
I
Yeah.
know.
There was the house full of dragons. So, yeah, it was almost like Game of Thrones. No. There we go. Moving on, reports and comments from our council members. Do you have any? Yes. Oh, you do. Okay, we'll start with Councilmember Wellander and then work this way. Vice Mayor yeah, thank you. He's the Vice Mayor, I think.
So,
Heard that.
two things. One, as I joined our mayor and our fellow council member, Mr. Ding, to a ribbon cutting of a new winery at Wine Alley called, I believe it is Soray.
Yeah, so we want.
Yes, and so anyway, wish them the best. Love to see vacant spaces filled, regardless of use. The one that I did want to share more in depth is I did attend another 3-hour Zoom meeting regarding the homeless board in Sonoma County. And we all recognize that there's a certain element of chaos back in Washington, D.C., which is having some funding issues. And as it has been explained to me today, is that there are right now approximately 200 units that are vulnerable housing units, and it has to do with reallocating money not for what we ultimately want to see, and that's permanent supportive housing, but it's now being reallocated to transitional housing or other. So there is going to be, and this is right now impacting 9 of our local nonprofits. The other thing, though, I do want to also very briefly recognize is that the funding that the county and the city and the board gets regarding homelessness comes from, it's a very complex process. There are 42 different resources that our funding comes from, and they're from 12 different agencies or jurisdictions. And each of them require different applications, different evaluations, reviews. So it's a very labor-intensive process. In 2003, 2004, we were blessed countywide with $209 million to address homelessness, which I think overall was effectively spent predominantly on creating permanent supportive housing. But that's a lot of money too, and I don't have the specific numbers that we were able to get people off the streets and into housing, but there was a significant decrease. The sobering reality for 25-26 is we're anticipating around 120 million, so not quite half. And again, the trajectory or the anticipation is that this decrease is not going to stop with this new calendar year, but it's going to continue. So if it continues, who knows what funds will be available in 26, 27. And I think part of it, of course, is the focus is to certainly not to go backwards, but certainly to try to sustain the nonprofits that we have right now and the work that they've done. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. I am pleased and at times intimidated sitting on this board trying to figure it out. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Gurney.
Not a lot to report, but I did attend the Tourism Improvement District meeting last week on December 11th. And in essence, what we really kind of discussed is the issue of bringing small conferences to Sonoma. And my takeaway was they're having some success with the consultants that they're using that are out there trying to encourage organizations to look at Sonoma. And they even talked about some of the benefit when Sonoma Mission Inn has a fully booked conference out there, how there is aspects of it that benefit the local lodging establishments, even though they could never attract that size of a conference. So there's some positive things going on with regards to lodging. And then also we did have a discussion on the grants that were awarded, and we had some public presentations requesting additional funding, and there was a surplus from when they made their grant decisions. And it remains to be seen where that discussion will go next month. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, that overflow is always nice. So I have a few. I did attend the Sonoma Clean Power Board meeting on December 14th. Just a couple things to report is that last year Sonoma Clean Power and they've been committed for years to addressing food insecurity, and they were able to give $95,000 to 8 different food banks in Sonoma. So that's very, very positive. And then just, one of the things just going on, I'm not going to go into detail around all the legislative work that's happening, but there's a lot. And one of the things just that people are to be aware of is one of the things is Sonoma Clean Power is really working to develop geothermal power as a part of our transition to electrification, but also that could be power that our Sonoma Clean Power would own themselves, and then would significantly help the move away from oil and gas. And that they're looking at there was legislation last year to for exploration of new projects, if they met in both environmental and labor regulations, that they would not have to go through CEQA, and that didn't pass, but it's being reintroduced again this year. So as a way to help move this faster so that we can get to electrification sooner than later. And then and there's many things. So you can go to the Sonoma Clean Power site and read the agenda. There's a lot of work that they do legislatively, and if I were to go through it all, we'd have another 20 minutes on this item. So the only other thing I just want to say, and they had a absolutely clean audit report for their June 2024 to June 2025. And we elected a couple of new members for the Sonoma Clean Power Citizens Advisory Commission. Crispin Hollenhead from Ukiah, Michael Heffler from Sonoma. Both of them were already on the CAC. And then the new member, Marcia Beard from Bodega Bay, and a new member, Jack Pollard from Windsor. So that's exciting. We have, from the city of Sonoma, we have 2 members, Jana Wang and Michael Heffler, that are on the CAC. And then on December 7th, I attended the Sonoma County Democratic Party Christmas party. On December 11th, attended the ribbon cutting for Sol Ray, which is for the Sun King. And that's at 25 East Napa Street. If you don't know where that is, it's just off the plaza, just down the alleyway. I think of it as the pink alleyway. So, and then this evening I attended a lighting of the menorah in our plaza at the amphitheater. So, and that was really lovely. It was well attended, although one person did walk up and say to me she had hoped that it wasn't publicly advertised because she was concerned about, what would happen. But Chief Cutting was there, and I think David, our city manager, David Guin, was there. David Johns was there too. So they really appreciated people from the city being there. And it was lovely. And a lot of it is lovely children singing and telling the story of Hanukkah. So it was really lovely. All right, so moving on, it's always good to have the joyfulness moving forward in spite of this last weekend. So, do we have any reports from our city manager, Mr. Guin?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. A couple things. First, the rain is coming, so we've had a dry spell, and we're going to start to see some rain over the next week. And as our esteemed PIO, Sarah Tracy, has coined it, it's the storm parade is coming. We have set up sandbags, so we have sand at Depot Park, and we have bags at City Hall, so if anybody needs those, we do have those available. The Public Works crews have been out ahead of this, trying to get the streets clean, so the street sweepers have been out cleaning the streets and cleaning the storm drains. And so just be careful out there, especially during the holiday traffic time and traveling. It's going to be messy. So stay safe and take your time and allow yourself some extra time in your travels. In addition, we are starting to see some events change their schedules, change their locations based on the rain coming this weekend. So if you're planning to go to a community event or go to an event, please just double check your schedule and see if it's changed. One of those I'll talk about here is the Holiday Serenades that was supposed to be at the amphitheater. They've moved that, and that's on Sunday. They've moved that to the Sonoma Valley Museum of Art because of the rain that's coming. So it will not be in the amphitheater. It'll still be 4 to 6. They'll have the West County Trio from Anley High School and the Luke Curley's Festival Brass, and it's free and family friendly. So again, that's been moved from the amphitheater on Sunday to Sonoma Valley Museum of Art. And all of our stores and restaurants will still be open. So if you're trying to do some last minute holiday shopping, like my wife and I were this past weekend, come downtown here in the plaza and visit the shops. They were packed this past weekend. It's great to see everybody out there shopping. Please shop local. That revenue stays here in the town that we can use for services and programs. So please do that. The holiday nominations are being accepted through January 7th. So if you do have a nomination, you can still get those in. You can send those to me. Information's on the website on how to nominate somebody. And as a reminder, we are having our council goal setting on Friday, January 30th. It will be at the Sonoma Community Center this year. So that's that. If you want to mark that down, it's a month from now. And although January 26th, the Monday before that, we'll be going over the goals, what we've accomplished this past year, leading into goal setting based on the previous goals. I do want to acknowledge, as we're closing up the year, closing up the 2025, I want to just take a moment to acknowledge staff and the work they've done this past year. It's been an incredible year, a lot of changes, new departments, promotions, a lot of stuff has gotten done. We'll go over that in more detail in January. But I also want to acknowledge the support team behind all the staff that stays late for meetings and runs meetings on the nights and weekends, the families and pets that support them back home to allow them to do that. So I just want to publicly acknowledge that. There's a lot of work after hours, and thank you for all the work you all have done.
And then January 29th, the State of the Valley at Sebastiani, correct? Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, it'll be a full week. So January 26th is our council meeting, and then the 29th will be State of the Valley, and then the 30th will be our goals meeting.
So we expect you all to be there. All right, so do we have any comments from our city attorney?
Yeah, I know previously I've talked to you about SB 707, the changes to the Brown Act. I don't think I've mentioned SB 827, which revises some of the training requirements that elected officials and members of legislative bodies have to attend. You know you have the ethics requirement under AB 1234. You know you have the sexual harassment requirement. Well, now they've added a financial and fiscal literacy training requirement. It's also going to be 2 hours. Since you are already serving, you will have to meet this training by January 1st, 2028. So you have 2 years. But for new commissioners or anyone who's elected after January 1st, they'll have to do that within 6 months. So the trainings are still being developed as far as I understand. Nobody's given one yet. If they have one at the new mayors and council members conference, let me know. I'd like to see what they do. I imagine that they may wait and do it in 2027 there. But I did just want to give you a heads up about that. That will be coming down, and this training, as with the ethics training, will also now be applicable to department heads of the city as well. So the legislature has decided to share the joy of these trainings with a wider audience. So. And with that, I just wish everybody happy holidays.
Yes.
Please tell me that these new requirements are also being required of our state legislators, and they are not just saying, this is what you have to do, but we're above this additional training.
I believe that is incorrect, that the state legislature does not have this requirement. And in fact, instead, the state found that there was fiscal mismanagement on the local agency level.
I'm sorry, but I'd like to correct that. The state legislators are not as pure as the wind-driven snow, so I think they do need to take some classes.
Yes, Councilwoman Lowe.
Is there a second?
So, I'm on the Measure H, High Firefighters, and I just went through having to do a Brown Act training for that. And I think that it's kind of ridiculous when we take these things every 2 years, and the test is exactly the same. I graduated from the University of California at Berkeley. I was required to take American history once, not every 2 years. And I still can maintain my diploma. Somehow, everybody thinks that every 2 years we forget everything and have to do it again, and the test is exactly the same. I always miss the one about whether or not you can use the flight miles or whatever. But it's ludicrous to make somebody every 2 years take the exact same test. What would be better, and I know I'm just venting, I know this, you have nothing to do with this whatsoever, but since my colleague opened the door, I'm walking right through it. So it would be better to, every 2 years, let us know what the new stuff is on the Brown Act, as there will be some new stuff. But to make you take the exact same test, every 2 years, when it's a jolly good waste of your time. So, and also, there is never an accountability as to finding out if all of these requirements resulted in better financial awareness. I hope that's built into the law, I doubt it. And certainly, open meeting laws. And there's no accountability. There's nothing like, gosh, I'm so glad we passed that and all those people are taking that test every 2 years because looky here, we really are cranking it in terms of open meeting stuff. It's going great. You never see that. So without accountability, making someone take a test every 2 years, there's an old saying is that pig doesn't get fat by weighing it every single day. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
I'm glad we brought the pigs into the conversation. All right, moving on. All right, so now, see, that was like the most exciting city attorney report that we've had since I've been on this council. All right. Okay, so now we are moving to the consent calendar, and all the items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon with a single motion. There'll be no separate discussion on these items unless members of the council or staff request specific items to be removed or for separate actions. So does anybody wish?
There's a presentation first before
Oh my goodness, you're right. I just
one
went to
item
the
before.
red. I'm so sorry.
No,
And
no
look
problem.
at it. Dave standing, he's like, she forgot me. No. So this, I'm so glad. I've been looking forward to this presentation, by the way. So I can see others here too that will be. So Dave Johns, our Parks and Recreation Director, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members. For community members in the audience and those watching at home, as you mentioned, I'm Dave Jans. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director. I'm here to give you an update on the preliminary plans for the 2026 Transcendence outdoor summer series. So last time this came before you was back towards the end of August, and you'll hear me at times this presentation refer to a collective we, but a planning team that consists of city staff, members of Transcendence Theater Company, and Field of Dreams board members have been actively seeking ways that we can adapt the existing performance space to be a more conducive performance and also minimize the impact on our neighbors. So starting with a little bit of background information for you. So in August, before that, let me back to 2024. So the Transcendence Theater Company has been performing their Broadway Under the Stars series in the Field of Dreams locations since 2024. In 24 and in 25, it was on the footprint of Fazio Field, which we'll show you a map here in a moment. But for location, that's in the northeast corner of the Field of Dreams location. And I will mention that while we're here to address the sound concerns, I do want to acknowledge that the Transcendence has been met with a lot of approval, and it brings a lot of joy to community members from an arts and cultural standpoint. But we also, during the 25 season, received a number of noise complaints, and we take those complaints and the impact that it has to our neighbors very seriously. And so I know in my short time here, this has been at the forefront of my attention, and so city staff as well as the planning team has made this a priority over the last several months to see how we can address these issues. So in August, this item came before you, and council authorized Transcendence to move forward in 2026, but gave staff direction to look into what efforts we can do to mitigate the sound impacts. And so based on direct community feedback and feedback we received from the council, our priority has been focusing on the actual location of the stage and the sound direction. And so what we're going to jump into is a little bit of the process to date, and then I'm going to give you some visuals of what we've been working on. So from September to October, we've had collaborative meetings with our partners with Field of Dreams and Transcendence, and I want to thank both those organizations. They have both jumped in with a very solution-oriented approach of how we can be creative within the constraints of the location that we're working with. And so we had a number of meetings on the site. We walked the location, and we looked at the existing space. We looked at opportunities on other fields within the Field of Dreams. We looked at how the stage could be oriented, taking into account access points, sound direction, where the audience would sit, where the performers would have to access the stage both from the front and from the back end. And so lots of on-the-ground meetings where we've walked the site. And then in October, we met with a professional surveyor. We brought in an engineer, local construction managers to talk about the feasibility. If we were to move the location, what that would actually entail. Is that something that's feasible to get done given the timeline of the upcoming performance season, and also simply the work that needs to be done to modify an existing space to make it more conducive for a performance area? And so that took place in October, and I will share again a big hats off to the Field of Dreams team. They've brought in local contractors who are subject matter experts who are volunteering their time to give us advice in that area. And then for the past month or so, we've been working with those experts and are getting very close to having professional engineer drawings to show how this may fit within the confines of the new existing space. So what we're going to do now is I want to show you kind of an overview, and we'll start kind of at a very macro level and then start to zoom in. You're probably familiar with what we're looking at here, but I wanted to show this in context to the rest of the community. So the red square is where the performance took place for the last 2 seasons. And you'll see the orientation and the general direction in which the stage and the sound was oriented. What we're looking at is moving the stage to the adjacent field, creating a new performance space, and reorienting the stage where the sound would be directed more towards the open space. I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so you can go from that higher level down to a little bit lower. Again, this is an image of the stage as it was in 24 and 25. And this is what the general area that we are looking at for the upcoming season. This layout is a little bit more detailed. Again, we're working behind the scenes on a more detailed engineered drawing, but at this point, wanted to give you the illustration of what the stage may look like and how that sits on the existing field and the new performance space. So the white squares that you're looking at, the largest one, the most northern white square, that represents the stage. The smaller squares are the behind the stage, where you have dressing rooms, access points to the stage. As you can see here, what we're looking at is reorienting the existing outfield fence. What this does is creates a designated performance space, but still allows for the youth athletic and adult athletic activities to continue on Peterson Field. And so what I want to run through, in addition to just moving the location, what we found out through this process is it's not just as simple as taking a stage and transposing into a new location. There's a lot of impacts when you're looking at the site there. And so what we're looking at is obviously relocating the stage, but that also entails reconfiguring seating layout. It's not the same dimensions, that changes the width and the directions of the stage. And so something that Transcendence has done is they're working with a professional seat designer to come in and say, okay, here's the parameters that we're working with, and create a whole new seating chart that fits within the footprint of this new location. Obviously, our focus is on sound mitigation, but we also want to make sure this was a conducive environment for performance for the performers and also for the attendees of the show. And we think the space that we've picked out will do that. It creates a nice environment for the performance to take place and kind of reimagines and recreates the lounge areas and the areas that the attendees would get to experience before the show. We are also looking at this location. There's quite a bit more tree canopy in this area. And while it's wouldn't do the same thing as some professional sound dampening trees, have some natural tree absorption in that area. So we're hoping that the wall of trees, which you see lining that field, will help with sound absorption and deflecting some of the sound. As I mentioned before, we're looking at reconfiguring the outfield fences, but doing that in a way that makes sure that we're still able to accommodate all of the programming that needs to happen at Field of Dreams. We're looking at doing some site grading. So in order to do this, we need to make sure that we're leveling the field, as well as the access points in that area. We're also looking at potentially bringing in a new surface material, a more all-weather material that would create a slightly different environment than what they were in last year, but I think would weather nicely and be a more year-round opportunity there out at Field of Dreams. We're also looking at pathway and surface improvements. So if you're familiar, as you go from the parking lot was the main access point in previous years, now the new location would be coming off the bike and pedestrian path, which is just right outside this building. So we're looking at repaving that area, making improvements, also addressing, there's an ADA parking stall that would be in that area, so creation there. Essentially creating new access points to and from this performance space, which will be a big benefit for the performances, but will also be improvements to the site in general. And finally, we're looking at electrical access. There is electricity out to that area, but we're looking at ways that we can bring in more electrical power, which would benefit the Transcendence performances, but also Field of Dreams and community users. So moving ahead to what the schedule would look like with the new configuration. So this is similar to what you saw in August with slight alterations, which I will point out. So still 3 productions starting in June, but what you'll notice here is that it concludes, what we're proposing is that it concludes in August now. And the reason being is in order to accommodate the new location, we've removed the September dates. As you may be aware, youth soccer is one of our biggest sports here in town. And so towards the end of August and September, we see a big increase in youth sports activity. And so the field, Peterson, becomes heavily impacted in that area. And so we're proposing to move the final show in September to one weekend in July, a three-day performance for one single weekend in July. And what that does is that accommodates the youth sports and then also condenses the overall impact and timeline of the summer theater series. And so just some continued mitigation. Some of these are carryover from previous years. Some are new things that we're looking at. As we have gone through here, we're clearly looking at the reorientation of the stage and the speaker direction, continuing to use the data that was brought in from sound engineer modeling last year and advice that was given from the sound engineer as they provided for you here at Council. We're also continuing to restrict rehearsals on the weekend, so limiting the number of days where there's amplified sound. We're going to look to opportunities to increase tree canopy in that area. So if there's opportunities to add more trees in the area, which obviously would have multiple benefits beyond, but the intent is that that could also help with some sound mitigation. We're going to make it a focal point to continue to have robust community outreach and communication. And so that's notification of potentially impacted neighbors, as well as notifications to our business community, marketing and promotions, and then even things like coordination with this facility here. We know in the past there's been some impacts to, there's a lot of activity happening in the summer months between this facility, what's happening at Field of Dreams, what happens at Arnold Field, and so continued collaboration to make sure that we don't have conflicts. And as you saw on the first slide, some of the complaints that came in regarding sound was it was because a compounding factor with what was happening at the Stompers games, and so we're having ongoing conversations with the county to see if there's ways to mitigate those sound impacts as well. And as we know, this is going to be a new location. This is a new direction, and so we know that this is going to continue to evolve, and so we'll continue to monitor and potentially make modifications through 2026. So what happens next? As I mentioned before, we're moving through the planning process, so moving from concept to engineered drawings, and so this planning team, we're working on finalizing those plans, and then Field of Dreams, who's heading up the renovation efforts, are exploring opportunities for sponsorship, support, and funding in order to complete this work in 2026. In order to do it, we will have to do this in phases, and that's mainly weather-driven. Some of this work that we're proposing can be done during the wet months. Other times will require certain periods of dry weather and certain site conditions, things like doing the grading out there. You have to make sure that the site is ready for that, but we're putting together a plan where we can work from one direction outward based on weather conditions so that we're ready with a performance space by late spring, early summer of 2026. And then finally, as has been the process for the last several years, the Special Events Committee, which is composed of city staff, will be reviewing the application, and with a new location, we'll be working in collaboration with Transcendence to make sure that they're meeting the needs of our park use permit and making sure that they're using the site in a responsible manner, knowing that there's slightly different modifications based on a different location. And as I mentioned before, this is going to be ongoing monitoring, ongoing modifications. Our intent is to create a conducive performance space and limiting the impact to those neighbors around us as much as possible. So with that, happy to move back on any information, answer any questions, and hear any feedback you might have.
Thank you, Director Jantz. And do you have any questions? Vice Mayor Wellander?
Actually, I'm just a couple of comments. This is really encouraging because what I'm hearing is that we're working with several different community groups. We're a small town. We know it could be problematic, and a great effort is being put forth to mitigate, to mollify, what have you. And I think that really is critical in maintaining, I would say, the overall spirit of the small town. My last, not question, but comment is that from an aspirational standpoint, I hope at some point we can create a permanent venue that would also support more than Transcendence, but bring back the jazz festival and other things, because I think that would be phenomenal. But for right now, thank you and staff and all your partners that are doing this, because this is a very appropriate way of going about. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Yes, Councilmember Gurney?
Well, first of all, thank you for the presentation, and I'm very excited about this next season for Transcendence, and the collaboration speaks a ton for working together in this community and trying to solve problems collectively. So congratulations to you and your team, and look forward to making this a reality.
Councilwoman Lowe?
No, I mean, it's a great presentation, by the way, really put together very, very well and very thoughtfully. And I just hope that we're not diminishing the turnout. I was a little concerned about that. That was my only concern. I want to make sure that we have as many people as possible. I hope we sell out every single show, because it's the best night ever. And no, it's just great. We didn't have to do this, right? I mean, honestly, a lot of places wouldn't have. They would have just said, listen, you're always going to have people that aren't going to be happy about stuff. I hear that all the time from my colleagues in other cities, but we're different here. And it's like, we don't have to, but we're gonna try. And it just speaks well for everyone involved. So thank you so much. Can't wait. I want to know what shows are going to be happening as soon as possible.
Thank you. And at this point, I'm going to take a moment to see if we have any public comment. Yes.
Hi, Tom Graves. I live in Sonoma. I was at, I believe, a meeting here of this body when the sound problem was brought up. And there was one gentleman in particular, apparently, whose house is just in the crosshairs of where this sound goes. First of all, I should back up by saying Transcendence is awesome. I think the number of people that show up and everybody's in a good mood makes that very clear. But I left that meeting, and I came up with a simple 1, 2, 3 way of addressing the sound problem. Not the way you did, but the way my simple mind works. One is, I think 30,000 people attended last year. That's the number in my head. Add $1 to the ticket price for each of those 30,000 people. That's 30 grand is it, when I went to school. Number two, ask the Transcendence producers to turn their volume down 2 decibels. That's not a heck of a lot, but it would make a difference. And number 3, take that $30,000 and give it to the households that are most affected by the sound. And they can put that money, say it's $5,000 a household, $10,000 a household, $3,000 a household. They can put that money toward sound abatement at their own home, new windows, etc. Or they can take their family out of town a few times. So they have a few quiet nights together. It'd be a nice thing to do. So thank you.
Thank you. We always appreciate more minds in the mix. All right, do we have anybody else who would like to make a public comment at the time in regards to this presentation? All right, moving forward, I'm going to say this again, just in case you didn't hear it the first time I said it at the wrong time, is that we're now going to move on to item number 7, which is the consent calendar. And just all of those items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon in a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of council or staff request specific items to be removed for separate action. So at this point, do I have anybody that would like to pull an item from the consent calendar?
Yes, I would,
Vice
please.
Mayor Wellander.
On item number 7.3, I just would have one question for staff, so I don't think we need to necessarily pull it. But on items 7.7, 7.8, and 7.9, I'd love to have some brief discussion. I don't envision this being controversial, but I just think that there needs to be some discussion regarding those items, please.
Okay, so we're, a question on 7.3, and then you want to pull 7.7, 7.8, and 7.9, correct? All right. And so at this point, why don't we, since we don't think there would be controversial, can we do those discussions first and then vote, or do we do them separately?
Why don't we get the question on 7.3? Sounds like that's just a quick answer, and then we can vote on 7.1 to 7.6.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Yes, and this is a question directed to our city manager, and that is one that was expressed earlier in your office, but I thought there's value to it for the public. Are you comfortable with the 5 months of the expenditure percentages as shown on the document, as far as being relatively comfortable?
I am. On this monthly expenditure report, the timing of the revenues and expenditures do not line up, and so I'm comfortable with where we are. What's going to happen on January 26th is our finance director will come back with a detailed mid-year budget, which will show actual revenues and expenditures to date. That'll be much more accurate. That will show. And I'm just going to look to my finance director real quick to see if she wants to add anything additional to that.
That is correct.
Do you want to?
Yes.
So that is correct. We've not received any property tax for this fiscal year 25-26, which will be, we will receive by end of the month. So when we come back for the mid-year, you will see the revenue being little aligned with the expenditures.
Thank you, and given the fact that you two have done miracles about bringing us from red to black, I greatly appreciate it, and I just thought that would be a comment that the public might be interested in knowing, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then, do I have a motion to approve items 7.1 through 7.6? Oh, public comment. We need public comment first. Thank you. Yes. One of these days I'll get this right. Oh, this is my last chance to get it right. All right, do I have any public comment on the consent calendar? And at this point, it will be just items 7.1 through 7.6. All right, seeing none. Oh, did you want to comment? No, I don't. Okay. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so moving forward to, let's start with 7.7. Yes. So, did you want us to do just a brief overview? Have our development director, Jennifer Gates, do a brief overview of?
Yes, thank you for saying that, guys. I'm super excited about the first two items becoming actionable, and I just think that because of the significance that both these items will have, that there could be some value with our community development director to just be briefly overviewing that for the public's interest, and I will have a couple of follow-up questions.
All right, so
You're on.
thank you. Community Development Director Jennifer Gates. So the first item before you is a request for the adoption of a resolution to authorize a professional services agreement with Page and Turnbull to prepare the citywide historic resource survey and historic context statements. So this is an effort to continue to streamline our entitlement process for future development while maintaining our historic community character. It's been a long time since we've done a citywide survey. So what we've been doing for the last few years is individual historic resource evaluations for any property that is 45 years old or older, if it was not already identified as historic, to determine whether it is potentially eligible. So this will help get rid of that process and just have one that's going to look at all properties throughout the city and also take into account all the properties we've already identified, and then we'll present that to you all in the future. It also is going to provide what's called a historic context statements, so that create quote-unquote themes around development within Sonoma. So how did it grow? What are those different themes that influence the development that we see here? Who are the main characters in that, and the builders to property owners, developers, things like that. All the different architectural styles. So then we can use those documents to move forward in another 5 years and be able to understand that historic character more as other properties age. So that is the purpose of that citywide survey, and we are looking forward to it, and we think it hopefully will only take about 15 months. Is the goal. So that concludes my presentation.
All right. Do we have any other questions? Did you have a question? Vice Mayor?
No, I do not.
Okay, great. So we will take this at this point and see if there's any public comment on this. And seeing no, oh yeah, we do. There we go.
Jennifer's hiding me. Robert Demler, First Street West, Sonoma. I want to congratulate the city on going forward with this. The last citywide survey was 1977. There have been a couple of updates, but they were very specialized, and one was really mostly in the valley and not in the city. So we've, as Jennifer said, we've been doing it on a ad hoc basis for particular properties. So this is very, very welcome, and I would also encourage the city staff to encourage Page and Turnbull to make use of our survey documents so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel over a number of historic properties within Sonoma. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Oh, so at this point, do we have any discussion from the council? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve 7.1? I'm sorry, 7.7. Sorry,
I would like
going
to,
backwards.
I'd like to enthusiastically recommend that we approve this item as presented.
Second.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, now moving on to 7.8. And I'm assuming that we're going to do the same process here. You're going to have a brief presentation on this, and then we will have public comment and so on and so on. Here we go.
All right. So again, Director Gates. So this item is before you to adopt a resolution to authorize the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with Architectural Resources Group to prepare a historic landscape survey report for the Sonoma Plaza Park in the amount not to exceed $40,900, as well as to amend the fiscal year adopted budget by $45,000. So this item specifically, our Sonoma Plaza is a National Historic Landmark. It was identified as such a long time ago. So with that identification, it highlights some of the components that make our plaza historic, but it doesn't get into the details of our historic landscapes, the park itself. And so what this document does is it's actually going to research the history of all of the built and natural environment or planted environment. So the history of the fountains, the rose garden, also tree plantings and things like that that occur currently. So what is that spatial organization? How do we use the park? Things like that. So this is going to be used to guide our future improvements as well as maintenance and any preservation decisions. So that is the purpose of this document. It's not going to actually give recommendations for the maintenance of anything. So this document will be used to move forward with the Plaza Park Master Plan. So this is kind of a component of that and will be used in the future. So we are excited about this project as well.
Yes. Do we have any questions at this point?
A couple of quick questions.
Great. Vice Mayor Wellander.
Again, it's something that I asked, but I think it would be appropriate for the city, for the public to hear, and that is, we invested in that incredibly valuable survey and topography that I think will be a great asset to the work that needs to be done by Page, not by Page and Turnbull, but by
ARG, we call it.
ARG. And I just want to make sure that they were aware of this as far as a tool, that when they put together their proposal, that they were mindful and that hopefully they recognized the value of it and made an adjustment to their bottom line.
So we will provide all information that's available, including the survey that was done that provides basically a base map for their documentation. So when they go out, and it's not, it'll be helpful because we are not being charged to actually draw and not ask for an actual measured drawings of anything. So in that case, we're good to go.
And then I'm incredibly encouraged with the proposed timeline of 4 months versus 15. But I also wanted to state that I have, we all, I think most of us are aware of, is the Women's Club is very motivated to redo the Italian garden area, and that they were hoping to do it for a significant anniversary, which is this spring, summer. I think it's 125 years or maybe even more so. And I know that right now the parallel will be this survey and then their fundraising, which hopefully will be successful. But I'm hoping that the efficiency and timeline will be such that we give the Women's Club the opportunity to be successful in their ultimate goal, and that is to demonstrate what they believe is the significant contribution that this club made originally to the plaza.
I have a question. Yeah.
Yes. Councilman
Can you describe a little bit about Architecture Resource Group? This is the consulting company, or how many years work with us? Yeah.
So I have not worked with them here, but I have worked with them in the past. So when we select consultants for historic work, they need to be qualified consultants. So they have to meet the Secretary of Interior standards. And so those are specific qualifications, and this consultant firm does meet that. They have been around for over 20 years because I've been in the industry 20 years, and I've known them this whole time. So yeah, they're statewide. And active in both areas.
Thank you. Yeah, you mentioned a qualification because what I'm thinking in my mind, if it's not possible, maybe we can sign some of the job for our local nonprofit organization, Historic League or Historical Society, if they have this kind of resource, this kind of professional. Because I know the many retired professionals in our area.
Correct. And so what the consultants do is they work with our resources, our local resources, to get that information. So in this scope specifically, it'll be working with the different, so our historical society, as well as the, I'm always,
League.
Thank you, the league.
Yeah.
The league, the society and the league. So they'll work with both organizations to get the historical information to help develop that history and that context and get images. And then the same thing with the citywide survey. That citywide survey is also going to include interviews and get personal information as well from our local families.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Do we have any other questions? Seeing none, is there anybody from the public that would like to make a comment on this item? Welcome back. Mr. Demler.
Robert Demler, Sonoma, excuse me. I should have said a moment ago, I'm speaking for the Sonoma League for Historic Preservation on 7.7 as well as 7.8. I'd like to say about the plaza. The Sonoma League's original mission was a simple one-sentence statement that it was to it was to beautify the plaza and environs. But we've broadened our scope over these 53 years. And so we still are very happy that you're taking on the plaza. And two things I would like to mention now while it's on my mind, and I may forget in the future, is I hope the part of this plaza design will include access to the plaza from the Depot Park. Not so much to include that in this plan, but to make provision for some sort of connecting pathway. And the second and last item would be, I would appreciate, speaking as the former chairman of the Citizens Committee that placed the Vallejo statue in the plaza courtesy of the city. It was a gift to the city, that we gave a number of thousands of dollars for its maintenance and beautification. So I would appreciate some sort of landscaping around the Vallejo statue and some lighting, even if it's just moving that one single pole light a few feet forward to be behind the statue. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so do we have any discussion? 7.8. Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I move to approve to adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute professional service agreement with the ARC.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so now moving forward to, let's make sure we have this right, 7.9. At this point, on 7.9, do you have any comment or question that you wanted to ask about this?
Actually, I think we don't need anybody to go up to the podium, but we just have, in my opinion, need to make some comments up here, and that is, I just wanted to, given the fact that we now have a visual for the commissioners, their attendance throughout the entire year, I just would like to publicly thank them for giving of their time, and that's the only reason I wanted to pull it, but for us to somehow go on the record expressing our appreciation.
Anybody else like to comment on that? Very well said. And I'm very happy to have the report, and I was really happy to see that all of those people that I appointed had very good attendance records. So, not that it's some kind of competition here, but yahoo. Anyways, so, okay, so do I have a motion?
I move approval.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I didn't take public comment on that one because that wasn't really, it was pulled just for a report. Are we all good? Are we good with that?
Since it was pulled, you should just see if there's
Okay,
public comment.
would anybody else like to have public comment on this? Thank you. Okay, now we'll move ahead. All right, so now we're moving on to our public hearing, I believe, as I turn to my next page. Item 8.1. And this is a public hearing to introduce an ordinance amending Sonoma Municipal Code to implement our Housing Element Program 15 and an ordinance to implement Housing Element Program 20 and finding the ordinance exempt from California Environmental Act, CEQA, pursuant to 15061B3 general rule of CEQA guidelines. And I am going to introduce once again our Development Director, Jennifer Gates.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So before you tonight is some housing element implementation ordinances. So in March of 2023, if you can remember, a couple years ago, City Council approved the city's housing element, which contains a number of implementation programs. In November of 2025, the Planning Commission had recommended approval with modification of 2 ordinances to implement specifically a portion of Program 15 as well as Program 20. So there are some of our programs that have specific deadlines, and our goal is always to meet those deadlines, and sometimes we don't, but that is always the goal. And so we are really trying within the next couple of years to catch up on some of these program ordinances that required the city adopt regulations around specific things. So the ones before you tonight, I'm going to go into detail around Program 15 and Program 20. They were attached to your staff report. So also, just to let you know, in March of 2026, we will be presenting the Housing Element Annual Progress Report on all the programs that are contained within the housing element, as well as what is going on in our housing development world. So what have we entitled in the past calendar year, as well as how many building permits we've issued for new units, and then how are we making progress on our RENA allocation. So to start off, the first ordinance is on Housing Element Program 15, and this provided that the city would amend the zoning code to accommodate a variety of specialized housing types, so low barrier navigation centers to employee housing, as well as single room occupancy. So I'm going to go over each one of these items, talk about the law itself and the amendments that are contained within the ordinance. So the first one is specifically around the low barrier navigation centers. So there is a series of code sections that specifically define low barrier navigation centers and provide requirements that each center needs to contain. And so we have updated, or provided rather, a a definition of what a low barrier navigation center is, as well as added to our land use table that low barrier navigation centers are going to be allowed by right, specifically in mixed use and non-residential zones that allow multifamily use. So that is a requirement of the state law, and so those are the things that we were modifying. We also provided provisions for processing as well as operational standards. These, again, are consistent with the state law. The next item is supportive and transitional housing. So there is a government code, our state law specifically states that supportive and transitional housing shall be considered a residential use and shall be subject to only those restrictions that apply to other residential dwellings of the same types and in the same zone. So that means that if I'm a single family zone, or single family use in a residential low zone, then supportive housing would be allowed by right, or it would require a conditional use permit. It just depends on what is being, what the permit requirements are for those different types of uses. And then also that another government code section specified that certain criteria that allows supportive housing to be a use by right, and would include administrative office space. So we have amended our definitions to be consistent with the state law and show that there's two different definitions now for supportive housing in two different sections of the state law. And then we updated the land use table for permitted or conditionally permitted, which would be consistent, again, with the other residential uses of the same type, whether that's a single family or a multifamily. And then we also amended the footnote. So all of these were state law requirements. The next one is residential care facilities. So in the Health and Safety Code, it states that residential care homes shall be considered a residential use and shall be subject to only those restrictions that apply to other residential dwellings of the same type in the same zone. So very similar to the supportive and transitional housing. So our draft ordinance amends the definition to be consistent with state law, updates the land use table, and then also adds a footnote that residential care homes that are requiring use permits, that the conditions of approval shall be objective and not create barriers. This is specific to, again, state law. The next is around employee and agricultural employee housing. So employee housing for agricultural workers consisting of no more than 36 beds in a group quarters or 12 units or spaces designed for a use by a single family or household is to be approved in the same manner as any other agricultural activity in that same zone and is considered an agricultural use. Also, that employee housing that provides accommodations for 6 or fewer employees be treated as a single family structure with no conditional or special use permit or variance required. So the employee housing is defined in our State Employee Housing Act and is regulated by the Department of Housing and Community Development. That being said, we still, it's very helpful to have things within our own code that help us to implement this housing type. And so we added the definition to be consistent with state law. We update the land use table, again, identifying where it would be permitted by right or conditionally permitted. And this would be consistent with other residential and agricultural uses. We added footnotes, and then also we created a new section to add provisions for processing, as well as operational standards for employee housing greater than 6. So this is the ones that are accessory to agricultural uses. Identified these standards. We also added standards for a temporary trailer use to be used for housing purposes. Specific occupancy and employment criteria, required compliance with all applicable state laws, that they obtain a permit from HCD or Housing and Community Development, requires the covenant on the property, and that removal or obtain approval for use after the activity ceases. So these are our proposed changes to our municipal code. The next one is single room occupancy. So our state law just requires that the city accommodate for this specific housing type. So the ordinance that's before you adds a definition for what a single room occupancy is. Also updating the land use table, again, for allowing permitted or conditionally permitted with, consistent with other multifamily residential uses throughout the code. Also adds a footnote to what is single room occupancy and directing them to a new section of our code. And then also adding provisions for processing and operational standards. So as I stated, the state law just says we have to accommodate. So we could create, we have a little bit more flexibility on what that, the operational standards and processing looks like. And also around single room occupancy, if you are curious what that means, think of it more as historically what we would have called boarding houses. So where I know my grandma lived in a boarding house in Oakland, and a bunch of women lived in different rooms, but then they shared living space as well as kitchen and bathrooms sometimes. So we added provisions about the unit size, so that's the size of the bedroom with or without the bathroom. And that would be 150 square feet. And then Planning Commission amended and made modification that it would be maximum of 250 square feet. Also that there would be bathroom, kitchen, and laundry facility requirements as well as common areas. This was modified as well by the Planning Commission. Originally, it would be had to be on every floor, and we modified it to be that it as needed and up for for every 10 rooms. Also that the facility management plan needed to be provided, including requirement for an on-site manager if it was over 10 units. The unit should not be rented for less than 30 days. And then that density standards would not apply to single room occupancy housing. So each one of the bedrooms would not count as an actual unit that we would for calculation of density in traditional multifamily. And the next one is emergency shelters. So the government code was modified, I want to say 2 years ago, and it specifically requires parking for emergency shelters to comply with requirements of off-street parking for residential or commercial uses within the same zone. We actually do not have parking requirements set by zone or saying specifically residential. We have it by the type of residential, so single family or multifamily or commercial. Could be an office space has a different requirement than a retail space. So we are proposing to just add that context to a emergency shelter parking requirement. That it could not be anything more than what would be required for any residential or commercial use within that zone. And then we also updated our land use table because the housing element specifically identified that we would increase the number of beds from 15 to 30 for a by right emergency shelter in our public zone. And so that change was also modified in the land use table. So the next ordinance is housing element program number 20. So this element program identifies that the city needs to rezone sites that were used in prior housing elements to allow by right development when they provide 20% or more affordable units in their development. HCD has kindly provided us a letter reminding us of our obligation, that it needs to be done early next year. And so we are working towards that tonight. So this also does not include an application for a subdivision map. So if somebody proposed a new subdivision or a condo, that actually will require a discretionary review. But if somebody was to propose on specific sites that were used in prior housing elements, a affordable housing project that had 20% or more of their units as affordable, then they would have a by right development. So they would have ministerial approval. They wouldn't go through a process. So no city discretionary approval. And then that actually doesn't apply to design review. So you could still have design review. You just couldn't actually trigger a CEQA process. So our draft ordinance provides new definitions around what is affordable rent, affordable sales price, etc. We also are adding a footnote to the multifamily dwellings section in the land use tables for commercial and mixed-use zoning districts. Those are the two specific zoning districts that this provision is actually going to apply to. So what Program 20 specifically says is it identifies 3 sites, Site 11, Site 28, and Site 70, and I'm going to show you where those are here in just a second. Those are the only 3 sites that were used on prior housing elements that needed to be identified for this provision. So those sites are currently zoned as commercial or mixed use. And so that's why those changes are only in those zones. So Site 11 is on 590 West Napa Street. And then Site 28 is 477 West Napa. So this is the lot that's adjacent to Safeway. And then 45 and 69 Napa Road is Site 70. And this is the lots between Cogier and the Smog Check. So city staff is, Planning Commission tonight is recommending that City Council adopt these ordinances and for our purposes introduce. First, the ordinance amending Title 19 for the Sonoma Municipal Code to accommodate our low barrier and other specialized housing types. And then the second is to introduce an ordinance amending Chapter 19.92 definitions and 1910.050 allowable land uses and permit requirements to allow the development by right in compliance with the state law. So as just a reminder, we will come back with more information in March with how we're doing on the housing element as a whole. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Yes, thank you very much. Do we have questions from the council? No? Yes. Vice Mayor Wellander.
Maybe it's just to humor me, but I find it rather ironic that every new law the laws that are coming before us CEQA never applies. But other things we want, of course, CEQA always comes into play. So is this just another power play on the part of the politicians wanting to, again, create an implied opportunity to foster or create more housing units?
That specific provision for program number 20 is in our housing element law, and its intent is for housing production.
And when they want more housing, then they like to exercise their power to say, no, CEQA's not applicable. Is that fair to say?
That they will permit by right approval, Minister.
Thank you. The Montalvo project that's somewhere in the planning, they got a density bonus, and are they pursuing that by right because of the 20% of affordables?
No. So Montalvo is it was already entitled, and so we're moving forward with building permits. But that specific project, it was located within our housing opportunity zone, which specifically allowed multifamily by right in that zone.
Okay.
And it did come forward because it did trigger design review. But this specific provision, there were 3 sites that were remaining that didn't have developments already being proposed. So Montalvo was one of the other sites that was used previously, as well as another site. But these 3 did not have any developments, which is why they were specifically called out within that housing element program that we needed to apply this state law to them. And so that's the intent. It's just for these 3 sites that if there's a housing development proposed on either one of these 3 and they do 20% affordable, then they are afforded a by right or ministerial process.
Is it fair to say that some of these updates have, in all practicality, very little application with Sonoma? I don't see ag housing within our city limits, which is our purview. I can see it with the county, but we still want to fold it into our, because we're forced to by law. Is that okay? And then my last question is, in terms of the emergency shelter, does that require us to create one? Or does that just say, if you choose to create an emergency shelter, you have to apply, you now have to accommodate 30 beds instead of 15, and then you also have to meet some sort of parking requirement?
So in the state law around emergency shelters, it specifically states that you need to identify at least one zone that you would allow an emergency shelter by right. It doesn't mean that you need to develop that emergency shelter, just that you need to allow the possibility that it could be allowed by right. And then the housing element program identified that the number of beds should be 30 beds.
Thank you.
Yes. Councilmember Ding.
All right. My question is on the timeline. You mentioned about on the city of the Sonoma's and housing element was submit approved 2023 by the city council. When did you file with the state? Did they approve? Okay, when?
So I wasn't here. So in January, the city council approved it. They immediately submitted, and there were some modifications that were non-substantive, and they sent their approval letter in April of 2023.
Okay, thank you.
And then we report every year on our progress.
Do we need to submit our amendment version? Right now we are doing amendment.
So we are amending the municipal code. We aren't going to amend the housing element, but we are going to submit to show that we are compliant with the requirement of implementing program number 20 if introduced tonight and adopted in January.
Okay, thank you. What is the consequence for if not compliant with the state? Can you itemize a couple of
We don't want to do that. Yes, so if we are found to be non-compliant with our housing element or not with implementing, and they identified specific programs that they're quote-unquote watching and wanting us to make sure that we achieve. If we aren't compliant with those programs and implementations, then they have the ability, first they send letters, and then we try to work out schedules. But if they do find it non-compliant or us non-compliant, they remove that approval, and builder's remedy goes into effect.
How about the permitting authority? They want to take over?
They would take our
Wow,
that's the builder's remedy. They take over our permitting for housing development.
Thank you.
Yes, to be avoided. So I have two quick questions. So for the SROs, why? Well, I'm sorry. I looked at that and I knew I could have watched the planning commission meeting, but I thought I could just ask you. So I apologize for not taking the time to do that. But the maximum, why did they move to a maximum of 250 versus 500?
So I wrote the first one of doing the max 500. That was just thinking of a larger room, but in this case, as we were talking about it, ADUs, so a junior ADU max is 450 square feet. So that would even be even bigger than that, and those have kitchenettes and bathrooms within their living facilities. And so with a single room occupancy, we're looking towards having rooms not necessarily have to have a bathroom or a kind of kitchenette. The idea being that you have a more affordable option for individuals, and so the smaller is going to be more affordable in this case, and then we share the common facilities such as restrooms and kitchens and things like that. And so the need for a larger just wasn't seen. And then also, when we were talking about density, it was coming in that, we'll let the development standards for multifamily housing, so whatever the setbacks and our floor area ratio, and our site coverage, determine the box. And then the more smaller units, the more units we get.
Yeah, that's what okay, just wanted to clarify that, because struggling against more units versus more space, but that makes sense. And then on the housing program 20, what does the 20% do with our ordinance of 25%?
So we will still have.
Yeah, do they conflict with each other, or do we have to reassess our 25% now?
So we're currently doing a study for our inclusionary, so we can keep that out of that part of it, of whether we're already looking at it again. But it doesn't change our ordinance as far as inclusionary. So it's just that if they provide 20%, then they're allowed that ministerial process. We still require our inclusionary at whatever it is currently 25.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I will, any other questions? I think we're good with the questions. I will open it up for public comment. Oh, it's a public hearing. I will open the public hearing and ask if anybody would like to make a public comment at the public hearing. Oh, I have to do this. Requirement, right? And we are not seeing any comments, anybody coming forward, so I will now close the public hearing. There we go. And any discussion? Anybody have any discussion on this item? Everybody's clear. Do I then have a motion?
Do we need two motions?
We do need two motions.
Yeah.
That's what.
So on the first item, so on item
On,
8.11.
8.11, I move to introduce the ordinance amendments to Title 19 of the Sonoma Municipal Code.
Do I have a second?
I second.
If we take a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Wellander,
Yes.
Councilmember Dean.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe. Councilmember Gurney.
Yes.
Mayor Farrar-Rivas.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
All right. And then do I have a motion for 8.12?
I move to introduce an ordinance adopting amendments to Title 19 of the Sonoma Municipal Code to allow developments by right on non-vacant and vacant sites previously identified to accommodate the lower income regional housing needs allocation in compliance with state law.
Do
I
have a
second.
All right. Could I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Wellander,
Under protest, yes.
Councilmember Dean,
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe. Councilmember Gurney,
Yes.
Mayor Farrar-Rivas.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion
I
carries
have to just say,
unanimously.
this was such stimulating reading. So, moving on. And I like legal jargon sometimes. Anyway, so moving on to our regular calendar, item 9.1. So we are talking about a resolution approving the conditions for operations, vendor stall fee, pricing, authorizing the city manager to execute all agreements for the operation of Sonoma's Tuesday night market 2026 season in accordance with the adopted budget. And we don't have Lisa Jansen with here tonight, but we have Dave Jans. So we have Jansen and Jans. Very
That's
good.
right.
Very good. And Dave and David. Yeah.
Commonalities. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Nice to see you again. As you mentioned, Lisa Jansen, our senior management analyst, couldn't be here this evening, so I'll be presenting on her behalf. And I will start off first to make sure I don't forget, but I want to thank Lisa and the entire team for all the work they did all summer long and for previous years, as well as Jerry Wheeler, who's our market manager, Mark Bodenhammer in the Chamber of Commerce, who are our core planning team, and the numerous community partners that make this market possible. It truly takes a village for this to happen. We'll go through that in a little bit of detail, but just want to make sure that I thank them for their efforts. So we'll go through an overview of 2025, and then we'll look forward to 2026, and eventually get to a few action items and recommendations that we're looking for from the council. So starting with 2025, and again, from a personal perspective, I got to capture the final month of the markets as I joined in August. But it was clear to me, and obviously to the community members, it's a strong community tradition. It's a staple of our Sonoma community, and we saw that once again in 2025. So we saw a really nice turnout with record numbers of nonprofits participating this year. We added some new programming in partnership with Music in Place, so we saw some new youth music programming happening in the amphitheater. Record numbers of entries for the famous zucchini races at the end of August. We did also see a growth in our sponsorship dollars, and we stood in line with making sure that we are a net neutral and that we're recovering all our costs and are actually anticipating a revenue of about $12,000 this year. I think some of these go without saying, but I think important to highlight each year. As I mentioned, this is a signature tradition. Our intent is to highlight and support local farmers, artisans, our business community. The market's wonderful because it's free. It's accessible. Anybody can come and take part and enjoy the music. They can be with their community members. They can come together in one place on a regular basis throughout the duration of spring all the way into almost fall. It increases foot traffic into our downtown core, really cements the plaza as a centralized gathering place and a place for community to come together. It's a great opportunity to strengthen our community partnerships. As I mentioned, it takes quite a few organizations and individuals for this to be implemented, but it also is an opportunity for other organizations to come and share what they're doing and the great work that they're completing in our community as well. And we've had a big push in recent years to continue to promote sustainable transportation, food access, and healthy initiatives. So a few successes that we want to point out from this year. Continue to highlight some of those eco-friendly programs. Continued the free bike valet, encouraging people to walk, bike, use public transit when they come down to the park. Continued to work with our partners and making sure that we had plentiful waste diversion stations that were in there. We improved our waste management, and this goes along part with our agreement that we have with Sonoma Garbage Collectors. So if you've been out the markets, you'll see that we have numerous receptacles, and it's a really kind of all hands-on to make sure that our waste is being diverted properly at an event of that scale. Each week we really are talking to our vendors, but at the end of the season just really received positive feedback regarding the schedule layout. Pretty smooth load in, load out, becomes routine with some of the vendors, but that's also taken some tweaking on the back end, both in collaboration with the vendors and our on-site staff and partners to make sure that it's a smooth process and that our vendors want to come back each and every week and each summer. Continue to see growth and retention of our local businesses that participate in the market. That's a focus of what we do. We want to make sure that it's accessible and that our local businesses and farmers want to participate in this market. And low incident rate when it came to medical, security, and general park issues. So a big thank you to our sheriff's department, police department, and our fire department who help support all of those initiatives. And one thing that we've started working on the last several years is getting our vendors to migrate to our OpenGov platform and more electronic. Really helps us with tracking, with communication, but I know for some individuals that was a bit of a learning curve to go from paper copy to electronic copy, but saw a lot more success and a lot more smoother process this year. So looking at some challenges, and as we like to spin it, some potential opportunities as we look forward to 2026. I mentioned the great impact and the benefit of those youth performances. Some feedback we received was that while those performances were great, when they had a youth performance or a music performance in general happening in the amphitheater and also happening on the front lawn, depending on where you were, there tend to be some sound bleed and there could be some overlap. And so what we've done is we've met with our music providers and we're going to schedule that a little bit differently this year. And so, for example, when we have those youth performances, rather than both of them playing from 6 to 8, we're going to have the amphitheater performances be more of an opening act. So that'll happen from 5:20 to 6. They'll take a break. That'll move to the front lawn. When the front lawn performers take a break, we'll then turn back to the amphitheater. And we intend to post that as a schedule and kind of create a more just overall music atmosphere that's happening and not competing with one another. One thing that we did see, and it was discussed at great length in our debrief, and something we'll talk about when we get to the schedule, we did see a decline in attendance when we got to the month of September, maybe due to some seasonality shifts, families going back to school, other activities happening, a change in the weather, a change in the timing. But we saw a significant decrease when it comes to markets that took place after the Labor Day weekend. And so you'll see in our schedule that we're proposing some modifications to that for the coming year. There was a recognition that we need more wayfinding signage. I like to think that I got to help with this a little bit coming in as a new set of eyes, right, as a new attendee at the market. And in talking to visitors, we got a lot of questions about where bathrooms were, where bike valet was, where patrons could go to get their electronic benefit transfer credits. And so we're looking at ways that we can improve signage that will complement the existing aesthetic of the market, but if you're coming to the market for the very first time, make it easier to navigate the space. And an ongoing discussion is, as in the world we live in, we need to make sure that we are securing our space well. So we're working with our law enforcement team, and this is actually built in. We have a set aside CIP project that will be coming in the future, but we're looking at ways to make sure that we have the plaza safely secured, and so looking at opportunities for bollards, whether that's a permanent structure or whether that is temporary ones that are easily deployable. The way that we manage that this year, you may have noticed that two of our food vendors, the food trucks, were placed at the front of the bollard because the vehicles served as security deterrents, but also as a opportunity for there to be sales and create a new food atmosphere in that area. And then finally, looking at ADA parking constraints. With the setup of the market, where we set up and where towards the entry of the plaza, we have to take several ADA parking stalls out of compliance. And so what we're looking to do is looking and see if we can add temporary stalls when we do take them out in that area, or if there's opportunities to relocate those stalls to another location on a permanent basis. One thing that we're looking at for the coming year, and some of this is building upon energy that's happened in previous years, is looking at ways that we can infuse more community and more recreation into our programming. And so this happened this previous year, but we really want to bolster it this year, is continuing the tradition of nonprofit spotlight. We have lots of nonprofits that take part each week, but spotlighting nonprofits on a weekly basis and really sharing the great impact that they're having on the community. We want to continue to work in partnership with our music partners. We know that based on attendee feedback, music is a big driver. It's an important part for people that attend those markets, and so continue to making sure that we have an eclectic mix of music, that there's different opportunities for performers to come in, but that is a staple of the market. When it comes to marketing and sponsorship, internally we're looking to get those materials out a little bit sooner, especially if there's an interest for more partnership, more sponsorship, get those materials in the hands of our community partners earlier in the year and just really build momentum early on in 2026. And one thing that we're looking at from a Parks and Recreation standpoint is if we can really build out some of those activation areas. You may be familiar if you've been at the market, you'll see there's certain children and family activities, but we think that's an opportunity to grow that. And so that when families comes or adults come, that there's music, there's food, there's activities, just continue to look at how we can make it a full, well-rounded experience. So looking at the schedule, the proposed schedule for 2026, and this is where you'll see the change I was mentioning. We're recommending that the market season run from May 5th to September 8th. Traditionally, it's run through the end of September. And so in comparison, we're looking at a total of 19 markets versus 21. And if you're doing the math, that may look like that's 3 less weeks, but the reason being is that historically we haven't had a market during the week of 4th of July, but with 4th of July landing, I believe it's on a Saturday this year, we are proposing to have a market on June 30th. It provides enough gap, and I think there will be enough interest for community members to come out. So shortens the overall market span by 3 weeks, but really 2 less markets. Hours of operation remaining the same, of 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Typically in September, we've rolled those hours back a little bit shorter as the daylight shortens, but we'll keep with 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. throughout the entirety of the series. We are recommending that we move the city party off of a Tuesday evening, looking right now tentatively at Friday, August 4th. And the reason being is that it'll allow us to have a Tuesday market that week and also give an opportunity to really highlight the city party as its own event and own tradition that stands apart from the Tuesday markets. Zucchini races will continue on right now, circled for August 18th. And as I mentioned before, continuing to really focus on our music programming. That will continue with Music on the Lawn each week, and then the second Tuesday of each month, we highlight music from the Jazz Society, and the third Tuesday is youth music in partnership with Music in Place. Now moving into some of the items that we're looking for your approval on this evening. And so first one is simply a policy update. This is a snapshot of the existing farmers market policy. And so what we're proposing is in the highlighted area, as it said before, is that we would not conduct a market on the 4th of July weekend. We'd like to change that language that will determine whether or not to hold that market based on where the 4th of July falls each year. And so that would allow us to have the market on the week of the 4th of July this coming year. Moving into the budget aspect, some high-level highlights for you. Again, we're anticipating a net neutral budget with some anticipated revenue, but we fully anticipate to cover all of our operational costs. We're recommending that vendor stall fees remain the same, which I'll put those up for you here in a moment. I believe they're increased 2 years ago, and so to keep them the same, and with the revenue projected from the vendor stall fees, we'll still be in line with recovering our costs. We continue to put investment into music programming. We are asking for, within our budget, a slight increase in materials, and that's to address things like signage and some of our just general materials. It's a pretty minor increase overall, but that we're replenishing some of our supplies, and that we want to make sure that we're continuing those eco-friendly initiatives. So continuing the bike valet, which does come at a cost, but we think it's an important component of the market, and making sure that we have all the impacts and all the elements in place to make sure that we have proper waste diversion, continuing the water filling station and other elements. And then also a key component of the market is continuing our EBT, our electronic benefit transfer match. And typically we find a sponsor to help make sure that's 100% match, and we want to make sure that we continue that in the coming year. So here's a look at the proposed vendor fees. Again, no changes being proposed from last season, but you can see the breakdown of based on location and style of vendor. And then this is a high-level view at the proposed budget for the market for this year. More detailed version is in your packet, but this is what our projected revenues and expenditures are for the coming year. Right now showing projected net revenue of about $6,800. And next steps, so following discussion this evening, if approved, we would move into our vendor application process. We typically open that at the end of this month or very early in January, and that remains open through February. We would begin to enter into agreements with all of our market partners, which includes our market manager, Chamber of Commerce, the various entities that help us produce the music and the sound elements, Sheriff's Department for security, and others. The market advisory team will review the applications, and typically we select those in mid-March. And as in similar years, we're looking to continue that balance of making sure that we have good representation from local businesses, from farmers, from artisans, that's meeting both the needs of the community, make sure that it meets our financial needs, and it is creating the experience that we want our community to have in the community. And if all goes to plan, we will kick things off with our first market on May 5th. And so then before you, staff recommendation would be to adopt a resolution approving the proposed changes to the conditions for the Tuesday night market, approving the proposed 2026 stall fees for Sonoma's Tuesday night market as the maximum that we would charge, and authorizing the city manager to execute all agreements for the operation of the market in accordance with the proposed budget. And with that, happy to take any questions you may have.
Great. Do we have any questions? Yes. Vice Mayor Wellander.
Thank you. I was a little confused. Are we still going to have a third-party vendor for helping sorting the garbage? Because to date, it seemed like we brought in a separate subcontractor.
That's correct. So it would be the same as before, and that's working with, I believe the company is Green Mary.
And that wasn't included in our negotiations with Sonoma Garbage Company? Is their responsibility?
Sonoma Garbage, with the new contract with Sonoma Garbage Collectors, it has reduced the cost to us, and that's reflected in the budget. That the contract did include the separation and recycling, so they are doing that work.
Thank you. It's my understanding down through the years that it's been very challenging for both Lisa and Jerry to get other farmers to actually come for a couple of reasons. One being that the vast majority of the people that attend Tuesday night are more interested in drinking wine and listening to music and gabbing. And it saddens me because I love the attraction of the title, Farmers Market. And I would just like to continue to challenge the team to do whatever they can. And because we are running a proposed plus or profit, I would throw out there that I think right now we have maybe 5 vendors that sell something you can eat from the ground or what have you. I'd almost consider letting the farmers be free. If you're charging $30 an event now, or an evening or a time, that works out to be a loss of $2,850, and that would still put us in a positive vein. And I just think that may not solve the problem, but it speaks to our desire to do whatever we can to make them profitable, or at least make it worthwhile for them to come, because there's a marked difference between what happens on Tuesday night in that farmer's market and what happens on Friday at the farmer's market at Arnold Field. So I just throw that out there for thought.
Agreed, and I think that'll be, one thing that I've spoken to the team about is that, certainly if there are more farmers that are interested, we will make sure that there's space for local farmers, and so that's something that we will actively pursue. And I think worth conversations to have is what may be the barriers. Is it the timing? Is it the price itself? And is there ways that we can make it more flexible for them?
Great. This is just a little sidebar. I know there's been, when you're planning the citywide party, and it's just come up with the idea of the date of it, but I would love to see consideration to opening back up Spain Street, just in lieu of how incredibly crowded it gets in a very confined state, and we did that at one time, so that's a sidebar. And then under public safety, it says new county requirement for on-site ALS ambulance service valued at $10,000 is being provided at no cost by the Sonoma Valley District. But what is now the new imposed requirement from the county?
I may not be able to speak to the specifics, but I know that I think just due to the nature of the event that we're required to have medical on site versus it used to be. I think it could be, whether it's a fire that is there that's not in their official capacity in that way if they were to get a call. But I think we're required to have, due to the size of this, is that have medical response on site that's dedicated to the event itself.
Great. I think that's it. Thank you.
Other questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Ding.
Have you heard any feedback from other regular restaurants like EDK or Girls and the Fig? Their business any affected because of farmers market?
I personally haven't, but I know that is a balance that we look at. And I think part of the reason that it's landed on a Tuesday evening out of tradition is that rather than competing with one of their more popular nights. So our overall intent is to bring people downtown, and we hope that they visit those locations as much as they do visit the plaza, even if not that same night, for visitors potentially awareness. But I have not personally received that feedback, but I know working with Mark and his team at the Chamber of Commerce, we'll definitely take any of their feedback into consideration.
Any, Mark, do you have anything you want to share with us?
Sure. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mark Bodenhammer from the Sonoma Valley Chamber of Commerce. Yes, we hear about it from the local businesses. There is, competing interest from the event like the farmers market and any event that happens on the plaza. It draws people away from the business side and into the park side. That's the reason that we do it on a Tuesday night. When we were coming out of COVID, we made a special effort to actually limit the number of food vendors that were here so that we could push people towards the existing restaurants and encourage them to get to-go food and bring it over. But what happens is a lot of the restaurants close on Tuesday nights anyway, and there's not quite enough to serve this amount of people. So it's kind of one of those things where not everybody's perfectly happy every week, for sure. There are some complaints that we get, but they do understand that this is a cherished community celebration, that we're committed to having it just on Tuesdays and not trying to recreate this on Saturdays or something like that would create an ongoing conflict with their busiest of days. So that's something we're constantly monitoring. We do make a special effort. The vendor selection process, if you take a look at the food vendors that are there, we get a number of pizza vendor applications every year, but we say no to all of them because we have pizza restaurants around the plaza, Italian restaurants. So we try to avoid any direct competition with the restaurants that are there. And so that's why you'll see Thai food, which isn't represented around the plaza, or some of the other options that are around there. So that's the compromise that we're aiming to find.
Thank you so much. That's the first-hand information. And I would like to, suggest we should closely look at and those are existing business owners, because they are truly a tax dollars generator instead of farmers market. So that they year round, here.
And we'll have more discussion. Right now, we're going to do more questions.
Yeah.
So did you have a question, Councilmember Gurney?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
So, first of all, when I first came to the council, this was one of the issues that was of concern to me in terms of breaking even, or at least covering the costs to the city on this event. And so my question is, in the staff report, it indicates that the season concluded with about $4,400 better than projected. And then in your presentation, or Lisa's presentation, it indicates $12,345. I was just kind of wondering how that increased substantially.
Yeah, and if you look at the line item, I had to do the same thing when I was looking at it. So we actually ended up with, what the staff report is referring to as 4,400 higher than expected. So the 12,000 revenue was what was the actual versus what the anticipated was. And so if you look at the budget exhibit that goes with it, it was actually ended up with a $12,000 revenue, which was 4,000 more than we anticipated.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I would just like to point out that your title slide shows that this is a Tuesday night market and not a farmer's market, which it will take forever to learn to rephrase that for a lot of people. But I think that's very good to be marketing it as a non-farmer's market. Thank you.
Questions? Councilwoman Lowe? No. So, I just wanted, why don't we all make my comment in the comment period? So at this point, why don't we go ahead and see if we have any public comment on this item? All right, but thank you. Great presentation, and then I'll bring it back to the council for any just general comments or discussion. Yes, Vice
Just
Mayor.
a
Wellander.
general comment that I think we can kick down the road for a later date and time, but I think it'd be worthwhile either revisiting the dog policy on market night, and I don't have a dog in the fight per se. But I'm just saying that it's something that comes up frequently. It's been very hard to enforce, and it puts sometimes the staff in a very awkward position. I know there are regulations, but I think at some point in time, I'd like to suggest that we bring it back for some discussion.
Yes.
Just
Councilwoman
on that,
Lowe.
as it is kind of still a farmer's market. I believe there is a prohibition of animals on the side. I know on Friday market, that's certainly the case. So I'm happy to revisit anything that the council wants to revisit, but that doesn't seem like, of all the times we talk about it, the least appropriate, since it doesn't seem to be allowed under the auspices of, I don't know if this is still under the same farmers market authority, but anyway, I don't want to get too deep down that rabbit hole. I mean, another animal pun, totally unintended. Sorry about that. My question is just regarding the moving the city party to a Friday, if we are concerned about the impact on restaurants. I don't recall the city party. Isn't it usually on a Thursday or a Tuesday? It used to be on a Thursday, and then it was like, let's do it at the same day as the farm. Anyway,
But I think what we're there, if I remember correctly, we're authorizing this, that would be a discussion each year as to whether or not that happened the same night.
I think
as
that's about the
farmer's
4th of July. That was the.
No, but I thought they mentioned it about the city party
Anyway,
as
let's
well,
get some
too.
clarity on that.
It'd be
Obviously, we
considered,
all
yeah.
heard something
Yeah.
different here. Yeah.
What's the current thinking from your expertise?
So the intent is to move it off of a Tuesday to make it separate from the Tuesday market. Some of the feedback and the discussion the team said is that it was a very successful party last year. It felt like a kind of a glorified market rather than being its own standalone evening. And so the intent was to move it to a Friday night. We understand that there may be some competing factors with it being on a Friday, but that felt like the most conducive evening for the community to come together and have the biggest celebration possible. We are open. It's not set in stone at this point. Okay. In previous years, it had fallen on a Thursday. I know at one point it had been moved to a Thursday to make sure that it didn't conflict with a Transcendence performance night. So it's moved around a little bit, is my understanding. So the idea was to have it stand alone as an important event as it is, and having it land on a close to a weekend evening felt like the best opportunity to bring the community together.
Well, I would hope that it wouldn't conflict with Transcendence, and I was checking their schedule as we were going through these dates to make sure. Don't want that to happen. But I just have, Friday seems like there's a lot going on Friday. I mean, I was told it's always the first Thursday in August or whatever it was. It was kind of like, it's like Thanksgiving's the last Thursday in November, and that's when it is, So, I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards Thursday just because I think, I think the point was well taken regarding the restaurants and so forth. I mean, Thursday's still a busy time as well, but Friday I think would be tough. It's very crowded, thankfully, downtown.
So I would just ask if we, with that direction from City Council, if we could consider keeping this language which allows for the consideration of these items versus us changing it so that it is always on a Thursday. That would be my recommendation. We keep this as it is, but you're hearing, because I think one of the things I noticed is that the two events that we had were, just so that we know, there's other things that happen that bring a lot of business to the restaurants. So both the lighting of the plaza and the tractor lights, you could not get into a bar or a restaurant on the plaza because they were packed. So there are those other activities that are happening where we're really, working, providing activities that really are good for the restaurants as well. So that was one of my comments. Yeah. So, yes, Councilmember Gurney.
I have lived through some conversations with the restaurant owners, and I would not be able to support a Friday night party, and so I would suggest an alternative, and quite honestly, a Monday night would be wonderful, probably, but that's just me. But I want staff to make those decisions, but I think you're hearing what our concern is, and restaurants, they're valuable, and they know it. So, so I would make sure that, what are you smiling back there, Mark? Yeah, anyway, so that's my only comment. Otherwise, moving on.
Yeah, and if I could just tag on to that, getting back to my original, other things apart from restaurants on Friday night, there are events like at the Sebastiani Theater, you know, and I know they've made all kinds of efforts to change programming to keep, you know, now that people don't go to the movies as much anymore, I would hate to impact that business as well. And also Sonoma Arts Live, who tries to alternate so that people go to see live performances there. And anyway, you know, I think you get it. Thank you.
Absolutely, and we can certainly, the date was certainly tentative. I think the importance that we wanted to highlight this evening is with the intent to move it away from a Tuesday evening to set it apart from the market schedule. So feedback definitely heard, and we'll continue to look at the dates, and we'll work with Mark and our business community to make sure that we're doing something that is in the best interest of community attendees and our business community as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think it's a good point to talk to some of the retail stores around too, as well as the restaurants, because Tuesday night markets, you know, they stay open. People start showing up at the plaza at 4, right? So they are impacted too, just to make sure that we get their impact as well. I know they don't do as much business on Tuesday nights when the market is there. So I keep saying, well, you know, come on out. But it's important for us to talk to both retail, you know, and as well as the restaurants as well too. So, but thank you. I mean, it looks like you're taking everything into consideration and talking to folks. And it was a great presentation, and it's making money. Yeah, which is better than we've seen in the last markets. The markets have been very, very full. I mean, I know we had a few nights that weren't so full, and my sense was it was weather. You know, we had a couple cold nights in September, and people just, yeah, and a couple of too hot nights, yeah. So, all right. Thank you. So at this point, I will ask if we have a motion to approve. Do we need to do these as 3? Or can we take them as one resolution?
You can do this as one motion.
Great. So do we have a motion?
I have motion.
Yes.
I move to adopt the resolution approving the proposed changes to the condition for operation for Tuesday night market, approved 2026 store fee for Sonoma's Tuesday night market as the maximum to be charged, and authorize the city manager to execute all agreements for operation of the Sonoma's Tuesday night market 2026 season in accordance with the adopted budget.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moving on, this is the time we're going to do, before we do the council reorganization. Oh, we didn't have 10 people, so we don't need to do a second public comment period. So moving on to council reorganization. What is that? Could someone explain to me what that is? I thought this was like a lifetime kind of thing. No. Excuse me.
You have to pass the gavel. It's time to.
It could be, depending upon the vote.
No more queens would be happening. All right, so moving on. So, all right, so I'm looking at this. I'm going to start. Should I start with the nomination process? This is
I believe it's a presentation.
There's a presentation.
Me?
Yes.
Your mentee wants to speak.
Oh, good. Go, mentee.
This is the time for all of us up here as well as in the crowd to express our appreciation to our current mayor, Patricia Farrar-Rivas, and what she has brought I recognize in the course of this evening that I have probably used up all my allotted time, but I'm still going to take a few minutes and express some thoughts that I have come up with for our mayor. I realize that everybody has a story, and certainly Patricia has a story. And some of the, what I call attributes of her story, or key elements of her story that came across as mayor, was that she has brought a strong business acumen that I think we've all appreciated. But more than that, also kind of an entrepreneurial spirit that I believe she's trekked all around the world to kind of share with others. And I think that was good. I think she was influenced by the previous mayor, but she was also very successful that she maintained a sense of humor, because I think in today's world we all need a sense of humor. I appreciate the fact that she fostered an environment to encourage everybody to speak, to create an opportunity for everybody to speak. I thought also, my observation is that she has been very present during the course of this year to the community. And I think that's a very important part of it as well. And with that, you've offered compassion and grace. And I also greatly appreciated the element of passion that you have brought consistently regarding a number of climate challenges. I think that's good. That's a reminder for me. And I think lastly, the other element that you just displayed just minutes ago was feeling very comfortable to bring up a counterpoint. And I think those counterpoints, again, encourage us to think a little bit broader. So again, thank you. Now, I believe to my left, I have a box. And as much I was kind of hoping it would be a box of See's candy that you would share with us, I don't think it is. There is a tradition here that I have not been able to quite understand or fully appreciate, but at the same time, it is with great pleasure that I, again, thank you for your time and your contribution that you've given to us as a council. And I am very happy with the makeup of our council. I think we work well. And again, you have continued to make that happen. So before I give the rest of my fellow council members an opportunity to speak, I do want to get rid of this box over here.
It's not another cat, I hope. No. Here we go. Whoa. It's heavy. I think I know what it is. I think John gave me a clue. Oh, look at this. Whoa. All right, for those of you that haven't seen one of these, I'm not taking it out of the box. I don't think I'll get it back in. Again. There we go.
And I believe that is not to be used with your husband.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
And now I would like
So
to give my fellow council
Wow.
members an opportunity to share their thoughts.
Makes it real.
Well, let me jump in here. Sitting next to Patricia up here has been great. She's just as bad about public comment as I was, or maybe she learned that from me. I don't know. But anyway, and I just have to say that I admire your commitment and what you bring to the conversation. Always, you talk in terms of social justice, the environment, green power, and those are very important things. And I think we'd all agree to that. It may not be at the top of my agenda, but you always brought it forward, and I appreciate that. And the commitment to your role as mayor, you embarrass me because you showed up to everything. And I used to kind of laugh to myself because I wouldn't go to that. But you did. You showed up, you represented the city, and you made all of us very proud. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, so I have a little story here. I asked Patricia if she would please run for city council, the last day of filing. And I have never regretted that. She may have, but I have never regretted that. And she said, and this is sort of a story, hopefully, for people who are ever thinking about running for something. Well, I've never done that, and I don't know if I'm qualified. And by the way, women always don't think they're qualified. And women are just by virtue, honestly, are really qualified because they run the world. And, but it took a lot of, well, they're moms, it's a mom thing, right? So, anyway, so she, she was saying, I don't know, I don't think I can do it, whatever. And I'm like, please, please, please. And, we got it all done and everything. And as I said, I've never looked back from that, and she may be mad at me for doing it. But, she brought such integrity. She has such a wealth of experience that John referred to. Her caring for the environment is just fantastic. I mean, and it's such an important piece, and it's like I always know she's going to be looking for it. So even if I'm not looking for it, it's like I know she's got this, she's got this piece. And she takes notes wherever she goes. Sometimes they're very long notes, but they're very good, and she really takes it seriously. So I just want to thank you for saying yes to run for city council all those years ago. And I encourage people out there, if you know some wonderful person, woman, not woman, whoever, who is doing great things in the community, they too can serve. And don't ever doubt your power, and don't ever doubt what you're capable of, because certainly Patricia has shown us that she's just been a fantastic member of this body and an amazing mayor. And I look forward to working with you for the rest of your term. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I? Patricia is sitting next to me, but actually, after the meeting, I haven't got a lot of the connections or a long time to talk with Patricia. But I very much admire her, and also sometimes I using my intuition. This is a wonderful, the lady and the capable lady, but that isn't the truth. What impressed me is the one time, that is 2 years ago, I met Patricia at the Fairmont Hotel, because the workers, they gathered together, want to set up the union. And I saw her, and then, impressed me a lot. She is caring, and that people, those in need, and also focus on social equity. And another thing impressed me a lot, and also he paid a lot of attention to the young generation. And you didn't tell me, but your nephew told me, because your nephew is my neighbor. And you always support them, and you're using your husband's Tesla, is not Tesla, and the Prius, give to your granddaughter. Yeah. I can tell, they really love you, and you are amazing. Thank you so much.
No, we're not done. So we must, I'm going to change this slightly because I think it's appropriate. I'm going to, again, open up the opportunity for anybody in the public who wishes to express any comments, but I'm going to take it one step further and say, if there's anybody on staff that would like to say a comment, please do. This is your time.
Since I have a microphone, I'm going to jump right in. Patricia, thank you. It's been wonderful working with you this past year. Each year I get to work with a new mayor, and it's great to set up the agendas, work through issues, and I appreciate the dedication and time you put to it. We definitely went over an hour many times, and you put in the time, and I appreciate that. You're willing to take my calls any time of day or night, and thank you for all that. It meant a lot through the process. Thank you.
Hi, again, Mark Bodenhammer with the Sonoma Valley Chamber of Commerce, and it's a recurring theme in everybody's comments, but you're showing up and being a participatory mayor. You're not just someone with a gavel sharing your ideas. You really showed up to do the job. I was thinking through our last year between ribbon cuttings, our industry cluster meetings, our climate safe tourism group, all the other obligations. And we're one of dozens of organizations like the Chamber in the community, and I know you've done similar work with other facets of the town. So a couple of things. One, just thank you for all of that time. Two, I hope the community understands how much time it is, not just the mayor, but all of you guys. That's countless hours throughout the year. And just a reminder of how important that is to the people that you're connecting with. Those of us who are in this room a lot, I think it's easy to forget that, you know, it's Patricia, whatever, but when the mayor shows up to a local business that's opening up, it means a lot to them. They don't interface with the mayor, with elected officials a lot. So it's a really, it's a big honor to them, and it means a lot, and I appreciate all the time that you put in. So commend you on a great year, and thanks for everything.
Thank you, Mark.
You have 2 minutes.
Robert Demler, I am a citizen at large because I'm in a district that has no council member, so I'm not represented. So I'm representing myself tonight to say thank you very much. I still remember meeting you over the back fence at the Masonavi house when Sheila O'Neill was bringing you around the neighborhood to say hello to people. And I saw integrity and sincerity, and I appreciated you, and I supported you at that time, just that first meeting. And I want to thank you for your support to the nonprofits. I'm speaking for both the League, Sonoma League, and the Sister Cities Association. Sandra, Councilmember Lowe, represented the sister cities at Chambon-Moussigny and Burgundy in France, one of our sister cities. You, I think, sort of pulled off a resuscitation, or whatever the verb is, of our relationship with Pátzcuaro. When the mayors of Pátzcuaro, whom we had heard had refused visits from people representing the sister city in the past, came to town and met with you, and it was a very fine meeting. And you went down to Mexico, you alone, without any of the sister city people, and represented not only Sister City, but Sonoma and California and the best of us. Things are going really swimmingly with Pátzcuaro now, so thank you, thank you, thank you. We always appreciate it.
Oh my goodness, I was supposed to bring the tequila tonight. It was a fabulous trip. Oh yeah, the tequila. We'll drink that tequila yet. Sister City and City of Sonoma together.
Mayor Tom Graves, Vice Mayor, thank you for the invitation for me to speak. Every time there's an invitation for people to speak, everyone over here looks at me. I'm sorry about that. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you and everyone on the council and everyone over here, honest to God, for everything you do for this town. I may not agree with you all the time, I usually do, but I appreciate what you do. I don't think I could do it, and I appreciate how important it is and how much time you all spend on our behalf. So thank you so much.
If I'm not going to see anybody else come from the audience, I will pass it back to our mayor, but I would also encourage you after the meeting, if you wish to share in private some comments to our mayor. I think it's well deserved. So, Mayor, it's back in your court.
Great. Well, thank you. I have to say, when people always keep asking me, like, you know, how does it feel you won't be mayor anymore? Are you glad? Like, are you happy this is over? And I'm always like, well, you know, it's actually this mix of sadness, and it is a big responsibility, so it does take a lot of time. But I think the thing about it is really such an honor to be able to represent such a beautiful city and such fabulous people because, and that's what's so good about being mayor, is you get to meet all these people, and you meet people that you wouldn't normally come in contact with. And what you said, Mark, is what dawned on me, because I'm always like, yeah, I'm the mayor, and, you know, it's all right, I'm there. But, you know, it means that when you show up, when the mayor shows up, it means a lot to people. And it's, so, you know, that kind of energized me. It energized people and energized me. So it was always wonderful to be in our community. We have such an amazing community, but to be able, a lot of people said, oh, you had a great year. And I would always say, you know, it's all about timing, because, you know, we hired a great city manager, we have great staff, we have a great council. You know, there's a couple of years of a lot of work going on. And so I have been able to benefit in many ways from that, from the work everybody else did, that people kind of think that somehow I'm responsible for that. And I will, you know, I have a certain level of responsibility, but it really is the whole city. It's, you know, including our fire department, our police department, Chief Aker, Chief Cutting. It's just an amazing place to be in the world today. There's so much pain and so much division that you don't feel that here in Sonoma. People care about everybody in town, and they want to work together to do the best job we can to take care of everybody. And there's a lot we can do and a lot more we can do, but we really are very, very fortunate to be here, and we have a really wonderful community. So it has really been an honor, and I think everybody should at some point in their life have something to do with local government. I think that would make a very big difference in people understanding what democracy is, and then really protect it. So thank you all. All right, so now we get to do the fun part. All right, so at this point, what I'm going to do is ask for nominations for the position for mayor for the year 2026.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I would like to nominate the Vice Mayor, Ron Wellander.
Oh, and do we have a second? Oh, we don't need a second. It's a nomination. We just get to take a vote, thank you.
We do need
See,
the nominee
I didn't
to
thank-
accept. The
do
nominee
you
can
accept?
decline.
I accept.
Yes. And by the way, I am willing to step down, so. Just to make sure that people are clear about that. Oh, I had one other thank you. I have to thank Mayor Gurney and Mayor Lowe, and Mayor Ding, for really helping show me how to do this, and especially someone right here next to me saying, yeah, public comment. Very helpful. Anyway, all right. So at this point, let's take a vote by roll.
Public comment and then.
Public comment. Oh, good.
Yes.
Thank you. See, there we go. And sometime he does it for. Do we have public comment?
Robert Demler, again, you look like you know what you're doing, and I'm encouraging you.
I think Wellander's the nicest, friendliest guy around town. He's everywhere. He gets around. So I think you're going to have to run hard to keep up with Patricia, but you do a good job already. So I'm looking forward to working with you for the coming year.
Yeah, I have to say, of having Ron as a vice mayor, he was almost every place I was, and I knew there was places I wasn't where he was. So I think he's has the potential to do a fabulous job. So, any other comments? Okay, moving forward, let's go ahead and take the vote.
Oh, should I start with Vice Mayor Wellander? For one last time. Shall we come back to you? Councilmember Dean?
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe?
Aye.
Councilmember Gurney?
Yes.
Mayor Farrar-Rivas?
Yes.
Present.
do I do this next part, or do I hand it over to the new mayor?
Hand it to you.
I'm gonna hand it over to the new mayor. I'm gonna go like this to this part that we finish this section, but you get to finish it. All right, here we go. I have a lot of movement. Oh, you're gonna come back. Oh, good. Take the tools. See, it already shows he's smart, he's efficient.
All right, I would like to bring back to the dais the next task, and that is to receive nominations for vice mayor for 2026.
I'd like to nominate Sandra Lowe.
I'll accept, thank you.
With that, I would like to bring it back to the public for public comment.
Just going to say thank you again for being a great hostess for the Italians when they came and for going to represent us to the French. And I know you will do the same for us in any capacity, so thank you so much.
Seeing no more public comments, I'd like to ask Madam Clerk for...
Can I have a quick comment?
No.
I mean,
Yes, of course you can.
Mayor Wellander. I have to thank you because this has been one of the best experiences I've had, so. Yeah, so thank you. And you're a great vice mayor, so I'm sure you'll be a great vice mayor again. There. Oh, you haven't. Oh, you were a great mayor then. Okay, thank you.
The word vice and me are so far apart.
It will be a partnership. So, any more comments from the dais? Seeing none, I'd like to ask the clerk to roll call.
Councilmember Dean,
Aye.
Councilmember Lowe,
Aye.
Councilmember Gurney,
Yes.
Councilmember Farrar-Rivas,
Yes.
and Mayor Wellander.
With enthusiasm,
Thank you.
yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
Apparently, the former mayor did bring her tequila because it calls for a 15-minute recess to enjoy some brief tequila refreshments.
We can actually adjourn the meeting, and we do have refreshments outside if anybody wants to join us to celebrate.
Thank you very much, and I would do something that my fellow council members will look forward to anxiously in the future. This meeting is adjourned.